What's the most inaccurate thing your child has ever been taught in school? My 12-year-old daughter came home crying because her science teacher insisted that humans only use 10% of their brains and told the entire class she was stupid for disagreeing. Beth has always been obsessed with neuroscience. While other kids watched cartoons, she'd binge brain documentaries. She even saved her allowance to buy a real human brain model, which sits proudly on her desk. The brain's complexity fascinated her so much that she started a science blog to share facts about neurology with other kids. Mrs. Thompson was the new science teacher, fresh out of college and convinced she knew everything. During a lesson about the nervous system, she confidently declared, "Humans only use 10% of their brains. Imagine if we could unlock the other 90%. We'd have superpowers." Beth raised her hand and politely explained this was a debunked myth. Modern brain imaging shows nearly all brain regions are active, even during sleep. She mentioned how different parts handle different functions, from breathing to memory. Mrs. Thompson's face turned red. "Excuse me, are you saying I don't know basic science?" She pulled up a clip from the movie Lucy, where Morgan Freeman's character talks about the 10% myth. "See? Even Hollywood knows this fact." Beth tried explaining that movies aren't scientific sources, but Mrs. Thompson cut her off. "Since you think you're smarter than your teacher, why don't you come up here and teach the class?" When Beth started explaining how different brain regions work together, Mrs. Thompson interrupted. "That's enough. You're disrupting class with pseudoscience. Your grade is now an F unless you write a paper about why the 10% theory is correct." Beth came home devastated. She'd spent years learning about the brain, only to be humiliated for sharing accurate information. I emailed Mrs. Thompson with links to scientific studies, but she replied, "I don't need parenting advice about science education." That's when I remembered my neighbor Greg, a neurosurgeon at the local hospital. He was always impressed by Beth's knowledge when they discussed brain function at neighborhood barbecues. When I explained the situation, he was furious. The next day, Greg walked into Beth's science class wearing his surgical scrubs. Mrs. Thompson looked confused until he introduced himself as Dr. Gregory Walsh, chief of neurosurgery. He asked if he could give a presentation about his latest brain surgery. The students were captivated as Greg showed actual brain scans on the projector. He explained how different regions light up during various activities. "If we only used 10% of our brains," he said, "my job would be much easier. But look here, even something simple like wiggling your toes activates multiple areas." A student asked about the movie Mrs. Thompson showed. Greg smiled. "Hollywood also shows people outrunning explosions and surviving in space without helmets. It's entertainment, not education." Mrs. Thompson tried interrupting, but Greg continued. He pulled up videos from actual brain surgeries, showing how damaging any part of the brain affects specific functions. Every part matters. That's why brain surgery is so delicate. The principal walked in during a demonstration where Greg was showing the class real-time brain activity using a portable EEG machine. Mrs. Thompson was shrinking in her chair as students excitedly asked questions about different brain regions. Greg ended by announcing the hospital's new student mentorship program. He invited the class to tour the neurosurgery department, with Beth as their peer guide since she clearly understands brain function better than most adults. The next week, Mrs. Thompson was moved to teaching general science to younger grades. Beth's class got a new teacher who actually encouraged questions and critical thinking.